Hello, I'm Mr. Eddie, President of America, and this is Should I Tune In, the show where I take a look at pretty much anything animated. I had a chance to see something that's pretty brand new this time, a movie that came out just last Friday that I got a chance to see. It's another sequel in the Despicable Me franchise, Despicable Me 3. Was that redundant? Should I have just been like, the third Despicable Me movie? But that's not quite right either, is it? Because of Minions, Despicable Me 3 is actually the fourth movie, not the third movie. So, do I say it? You know what? Forget it. Despicable Me 3 is a movie that exists. I saw it. Let's talk about it. Now, I'm not going to ruin this movie for anyone, so I'm going to just talk generically at first, and then when I get to the spoilers, I'll give the spoiler line, and then you can choose to click off if you'd like. Despicable Me 3 follows the adventures of Gru. Yes, I got his name right this time, unlike that Minions video. A reformed evil scientist supervillain who's raising 3 adopted daughters along with Lucy Wilde, his wife from the second movie, and his horde of obnoxious toys marketed to stupid children. I mean, Minions. I don't know how I keep calling them by the wrong name. The storyline loosely goes that Gru finds out that he has a twin brother named Drew. Oh, sweet Jesus, there's a Gru and a Drew in this movie. It's like they want me to screw up the names. Drew, the new brother, tries to tempt Gru, the original character, into becoming a supervillain again. At least, that's what I think the plot was on paper. Hey, look, I just noticed with the arrows there, it looks like one of those bullshit clickbait thumbnails that they use in YouTube videos. 12 things you didn't know about Gru from Despicable Me. So let's get this out of the way right now. This movie was terribly written. Yes, I know it's the fourth movie in a franchise that was made to sell yellow banana-scented shit to children, and complaining about the writing is kind of pointless, but I'd argue that the first 2 movies were pretty solidly written. They had a solid story. I mean, it wasn't The Godfather, but they were fun, solidly written stories for kids. The first one had a supervillain adopt 3 girls as part of an evil plot, but he grows attached to the kids and becomes their dad. Predictable, but it was heartwarming and it was funny. The second one had Gru continues the trials of being a dad, and he drops his villainous ways to become a secret agent. Not as good as the first one, but it was still a fun movie, and the plot stayed mostly focused. The third movie in the franchise, the Minions movie, was a soulless, manufactured mess of a film. Let's face it, was only made to sell banana-scented merchandise to stupid kids. I mean, I'm a kid from the 80s and the 90s. I know a little something about cartoons only being made to sell me crap. It might have been okay if the movie had an okay story, and it didn't have little yellow monsters talking absolute annoying gibberish at the screen for 90 goddamn minutes, but it didn't. And they did. But I already did a Should I Tune In on the Minions movie, and you should watch that one if you want to hear my thoughts on that one. Despicable Me 3, it's not that it didn't have a story. It had like 50 stories, and none of them were fleshed out in the slightest. So here's Mr. Eddie's best guess, which is a trademark of America, on what happened to this movie. Did you know that Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs has a TV series now? Well, don't worry if you didn't, because I didn't until about 2 weeks ago. And it's okay-ish. Maybe I'll do a review of it if I can think about enough things to say about it. Did you also know that Hotel Transylvania now has a TV series? Again, found out about that about 2 days ago. It's okay-ish. Again, maybe if I have enough to say about it, I'll do a review on it. And that brings us to this movie, Despicable Me 3. I wouldn't be remotely surprised if the makers of Despicable Me 3 thought they were going to get a series. So they came up with a whole bunch of plots for various episodes. They have a whole seasons fleshed out. And then the series was rejected. So they took all those episode ideas and just Frankensteined the shit out of them into this movie. So here's where the spoiler warning might kick in. So if you want to click off now, go ahead. Seriously, though, I honestly wouldn't worry too much about it because there's nothing in the way of the story that would be ruined by me telling you about it. But look, it's your choice. I give it to you. I'm going to count down. 3, 2, 1. What if Gru and Lucy were fired for being spies? What would they have to do? Well, that's a 4-minute plot point. What if there was an episode where the Minions quit? Well, that's a 5-minute plot point. What if there was an episode where Lucy was learning to be a mom? That actually would be a great episode for a series. Well, we don't have a series, so let's make that a 7-minute plot point for this movie. What if Agnes was looking for a real unicorn? Agnes is the younger daughter, by the way. 6-minute plot point. What if the Minions ended up in jail? 5 minutes plot point. What if Gru had a brother and he raised pigs? The pigs literally have about a 2-minute plot point. What if Gru's brother Drew tempted Gru into doing an act of villainy? That's an 8-minute plot point, but only because of an action scene. What if Gru had an arch supervillain to fight? Well, that's an 18-minute plot point, but that's because it's the beginning and the end. What if Edith, the middle daughter, was a prankster and she liked playing practical jokes? 2-minute plot point. What if Margot was the eldest daughter and she was wooed by a boy she wasn't interested in? That's a 1-minute plot point. So what was that? 7, 8, 9? 9! That's 9 different episodes plots, all shoved into a patchwork mess of a movie. And I feel like I might have forgotten a storyline or two. I mean, I only saw it once, and there was a lot shoved at me. And having a lot of stories isn't a problem. The problem is that none of it is given any time to develop. Things just happen. And they often feel completely disjointed from one another. So Gru has a nemesis and a supervillain named Balthazar Brat. And the spy agency is trying to catch him. And he does battle with them in the beginning of the movie. And at the end of the movie. But everything else that Balthazar does is completely separate from the main characters in the movie. He just does stuff until the end of the movie. The minions quitting? Well, they were angry that Gru wouldn't be evil again, so they quit. And they end up in jail. And we keep cutting back to them throughout the movie because, hell, we gotta push that yellow banana-scented merchandise to kids. Because
we put the picture's name on everything. Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
But then, out of nowhere, they suddenly decide that they want to go back with Gru for no reason outside of a random flashback for no reason, and then they leave the jail and they meet up with Gru at the end of the movie. The entire Minion subplot does not tie into the story at all. Lucy wanting to be a better mom? That has nothing to do with anything else in the movie. It'd be a great plot point, except literally it links up to Margot having Boyd have a crush on her, which literally is only a 1-minute plot point in the movie. Even what counts as the main plot, Gru's twin brother wanting to be a supervillain, feels pointless. You see, as far as the story goes, their dad was a supervillain, and Drew, the brother, wants to be just like him, and he wants Gru to teach him how to be a supervillain. Gru uses this as a way to get back at Balthazar Brat in order to get something that he stole so that way he'd get his job back at the spy agency. So he's basically lying to the brother. But again, that's maybe 10 minutes of the movie it felt like. And you know that trope in movies where it's, oh my god, you lied to me. That's it. It's over forever. I can't trust you anymore. And then the characters hem and haw for like 15 to 20 minutes and you know they're going to go back together because otherwise the movie's just going to hang there until it happens. Well, they sort of do that trope here, but it's pointless. Because literally, it ends like 3 to 4 minutes later. In fact, we don't even see Drew react to being lied to. He says, you're not my brother, and they leave. And then the plot point that leads to the climax of the movie happens, and he rushes back to the brother, and then they're back together. We don't even get to see a scene where Drew is upset or anything. It just goes from one to the other. You could have cut that whole point out, and it would have changed nothing. And you know what? As long as I'm bitching about this movie, even the ending was flat as hell. I won't spoil the ending. That's too much. But I'll tell you, it left me really unsatisfied. It was as rushed as everything else in the movie. Like everything else, it felt like it was a plot that would have been fully developed in an entire episode of a non-existent series. But since that series doesn't exist, it was shoved as quickly as possible into the end of the movie, because the sooner you end the movie, the sooner you get the kids out of the theater, the sooner they're out of the theater, the sooner they'll buy the yellow banana-scented crap. Alright, look, I know I'm spewing a lot of hate here and a lot of anger, but let me say this. To be fair, this is not a horrible movie. There are actually some good laughs to be had in the movie. There are some jokes that really hit home well, and I found myself laughing more than once. I mean, look, Balthazar Brat is worth the price of admission alone. His character is that he's an 80s-themed supervillain who started off as a child star playing a villain on TV. And now because, he's a lost child star, he now plays that character in real life. He's played extremely well by Trey Parker, and that character is easily the most entertaining thing in the whole movie. He's funny. He's quirky. He uses 80s gimmicks like bubblegum, shoulder pads, and Rubik's Cubes as weapons, and it is just a joy to watch. In an alternate reality where Despicable Me 3 was actually a series instead of a really mediocre movie, I would have to hope that Balthazar played a recurring role as a bad guy that just showed up often. Another positive is that the Minions are way downplayed after a movie all to themselves. They get maybe 15 minutes of solo screen time. Now, that's 14 minutes too much as far as I'm concerned, but it's a damn sight better than having a whole feature film. They also play no bearing on the plot at all, so maybe that's a good thing? You could say that it's pointless, but I don't know. What I do know is that I went to a movie with someone that actually likes the Minions a lot, and halfway through the movie, she leaned over to me and asked, why are they even in this movie? They're pointless. They just keep randomly cutting to them. And this is from someone that likes those little yellow bastards. So, I mean, at the end of all of this, the question is, should I tune in? And I have to say, unless your kids are the biggest Despicable Me fans, no. You really don't need to rush out to go see this in the theater, and that breaks my heart because I actually really was looking forward to this. I liked the first one a lot, and I liked the second one well enough. I mean, I hated the Minions movie, but I don't think that was meant for me. That was just a way to sell banana-scented crap to stupid kids. I wanted this to be good. I mean, look, the movie's not as painful as the Minions movie, and it's not as bad as something like The Nut Job, and I'll be honest, the kids that were in the theater with me really did seem to enjoy it, so to be fair, maybe it's a kids movie that's only meant to appeal to kids. But my argument would be that the original Despicable Me could be enjoyed by someone of any age, not just really young kids. So if you're going to take your kids to see it, I would at least wait till one of those $5 days at the theaters. Maybe. Personally, unless your kid is really dying to see it, I'd wait until it comes out on Netflix. But that's me. And I know for a movie that I keep calling mediocre, I came down pretty hard on it in this review, but that's only because there's nothing worse for me than wasted potential. It's not like I expected nothing from this movie. It's not like, well, this is a stupid movie for kids. It's going to be crap. Who cares? This was a movie that had two pretty good movies before it. One really good movie, I'd argue. I had hopes. So to see those hopes completely dashed for this mess, yeah, I'm going to come down harder on it than something like The Nut Job that you know is just going to be garbage. It should have been better. And quite frankly, it's really disappointing to me that it wasn't better. And that's my final word on that. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks as always for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you were entertained. I do try to be funny. The keyword there being try. If you have any thoughts on the movie, please leave them in the comment section down below. Maybe you feel different than me. Maybe you really love the movie. To each their own. I mean, you like what you like. And, feel free to do the whole like and subscribe thing if you're cool like that. Only if you're cool like that. I mean, like that, you gotta be like Balthazar Brat cool levels of cool if you're gonna do that. So, until next time, I'm Mr. Eddie, President of America, and thanks for watching.
Ba 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 na na ba 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 na na oh ba 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 na na.
We put the picture's name on everything. Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made. Spaceballs the t-shirt, Spaceballs the coloring book, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the breakfast cereal, Spaceballs the flamethrower. The kids love this one. Last but not least, Spaceballs the doll.